Good evening and many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV Nightly News coming to you from our studios on Caraba Avenue with me, Ansmana Iswanyase. Here are the main news headlines. The outgoing Senegalese High Commissioner to the Gambia, His Excellency Bassirou Sen, and members of the National Bakers Union met President Barrow at the State House on Friday. The United Nations Gambia office met with stakeholders today to discuss the final position paper of the recently concluded National Youth Consultation on the Summit of the Future. The joint meeting of the EAS Parliament ended on Thursday with a recommendation that, among other things, the issuance of residence permits should be abolished in the region in keeping with the Community of Protocols. And in international news, African journalists participating in a 4-month media fellowship program in China have applauded China's booming tourism industry and say many African countries should emulate China's strategies to boost tourism. And in sports news, the Malian Football Federation, FEMAFOOT, has announced the appointment of former Gambia Scorpions coach Tom Sanfiet as head coach of the national side. Well, stay tuned as we bring you more on these and other stories. And we now take a look at the news in detail. The outgoing Senegalese High Commissioner to the Gambia, His Excellency Bassirou Sen, and members of the National Bakers Union met President Barrow at the State House on Friday. Loliam Kamara reports.
After a closed-door meeting with the President, High Commissioner Sen engaged the press about his meeting with the President.
It was an occasion for me to thank him very much for everything he did for me during these 5 years I spent in the Gambia. I am now leaving. It is the term of my office, and I'm leaving definitely to return back to Dakar and to get my retirement because my age gave me now the time to be retired.
The relationship between Senegal and the Gambia is characterized by strong cultural, economic, and political ties. Both countries have a long history of close cooperation and collaboration with a shared border and a common language and culture. Senegal and the Gambia also have bilateral agreements and partnerships in trade, security, and education, among others. This relationship has helped to strengthen the overall stability and development of both countries, promoting regional integration and cooperation. Here is High Commissioner Sen on the progress made in these areas.
The figure of education in the Gambia has completely changed since I was here with the President Barrow. We construct a new school in Tobacco Road. We renovated the Canifing complex, the lycée, the school and garderie d'enfants. It was a very, very, very good job. We do also a good job on the field of transportation. If you see now GTS and Dakar Demdik are going daily to Dakar and Banjul, 2 buses per day. It is very important for the population. It is helpful for the population, and it is within the good instruction given by Mr. President Barrow, this would happen. Also, we can say on the field of security, it is very important. If you see, since 5 years, there is no big harm between the two countries on the field of stability and peace and security.
High Commissioner Sen thanked President Adama Barrow and the Gambian people for their support during his 5-year term. Next to meet President Barrow was the National Bakers Union to discuss issues hindering bread production and ways to address them. Laming Diba is the Union Secretary General.
To engage him specific in enabling the environment for our operators, particularly the overhead cost that is too much when it comes to our production side, specific to Senfood. We discussed that at length, and the other things that we've discussed is flour, which is a component that is highly consumed within our production areas, what he can do with us and support directly to facilitate quality and quantity when it comes to the bread that we give to our population. So these are the areas we've discussed. And it has been really fruitful, and we will engage further.
Both Senegal's outgoing High Commissioner and members of the National Bakers Union acknowledged that meeting with the president was fulfilling. For QTV News, Lolly M. Kamara.
Now, the United Nations Gambia office met with stakeholders on Friday to discuss the final position paper of the recently concluded two-day National Youth Consultation on the Summit of the Future. Usman Jatta has more.
This UN high-level meeting comes following a two-day National Youth Consultation on the Summit of the Future, attended by over 200 young people from across the country. Carl Frederick Paul, the UN resident coordinator, described the meeting as a pivotal step in the Gambia's preparation for the Summit of the Future.
We must place young people at the center of decision-making in multilateral efforts and find ways to incorporate the interest of future generations into today's decision.
The Summit of the Future seeks to address the critical challenges and reaffirm commitment to UN Sustainable Development Goals for a better future, as in the Pact for the Future. Thus, the two-day National Youth Consultations consisted of 5 thematic areas, which include innovation and climate change, gender, digital divide, and global governance. Youth representatives Lala Toure and Lamin Jawa presented a summary of the two-day National Youth Engagement.
There's also believed to be inadequate technical capacity, so there isn't any tailored or there isn't any intentional mechanisms put in place to ensure the continued training of young people that work within the climate space.
We re-echo our call to action for all stakeholders, government, international organizations, civil society, and fellow youth to join us in championing these actions.
The event witnessed the presentation of government's recovery-focused National Development Plan. Here is Finance and Economic Affairs Minister Sidi M. Keita.
The Yiriba is the flagship development agenda of His Excellency President Adama Barrow and is designed to strengthen the democratic governance, accelerate green economic and social transformation, and enhance resilience to shocks and crises.
Youth and Sports Minister Bakari Y. Baji, Ismail Cisse, the Minister of Information, and Professor Per Gomez, the Minister of Higher Education, all gave their reflections on the Gambia's position paper to the UN.
It concerns in the justice system, as you all heard, that they believe our justice system is a little bit slower, and sometimes it is even more difficult when it comes to issues of sexual and gender-based violence. And yes, we have to accept.
So we are going to create this National Innovation Week to give young people the chance to come up with innovative ideas, to invent life-changing ideas.
Therefore, is to get the infrastructure, the equipment, the resources for the youth to have hands-on education. That's why they talk about mismatch. Everything is theoretical. That's what they are saying. So you finish, you go out, you cannot do anything.
Young people who are inspired and are ready to explore their energy and passion.
The generation of young people that will save their communities, their progeny from climate change and its related impacts.
In September, world leaders will converge at the United Nations headquarters in New York to adopt a new pact for the future. At this high-level meeting, the Gambia will present a position paper which includes some key points which seeks to address some of the challenges facing young people in the country. Osman Jatta, reporting for QTV News.
Now, the joint meeting of the EAS Parliament ended on Thursday with a recommendation that the issuance of residence permits should be abolished in the region in conformity with the Community of Protocols, among other things. As Alusisa reports, the committee also received testimonies from human trafficking survivors and irregular migration returnees during a dialogue on youth migration.
The week-long joint committee meeting of the EAS Parliament in Banjul provided EAS parliamentarians a unique opportunity to engage local communities and stakeholders on the importance of the protocol on free movement, rights of residents and establishment within the EAS region, addressing challenges and opportunities related to this protocol. The meetings also sought to gather input from citizens to ensure that the implementation of the protocol aligns with their needs and aspirations. Suleiman Abubakar Gumi, a member of the joint committee, read out the recommendations from the engagements.
Member States and ECOWAS Commission. Organize robust sensitization campaigns in order to educate both citizens and relevant government officials on regional texts, such as the Protocol on Free Movement. The Free Movement Protocol should be made available to all immigration officers, especially at the border posts. All trainings of immigration and custom officials should include training on the relevant community texts. The issuance of residence permits should be completely abolished in the regions in conformity with the community texts.
Senator Edwin Melvin Sino Jr. and Veronica Kadisise, co-chairs of the meeting, described the Banjul meeting as successful and promised that the Parliament will follow up on the implementation of the recommendations from the meeting.
We are very appreciative of the high level of organization you gave this meeting, the excellent hospitality that we received. We are going back with very special memory of the Gambia for what you've done.
Since the inception of ECOWAS in 1975 and the signing of the protocols of this protocol in 1979, up to this time, there are still challenges. And these are some of the challenges that we want for us to highlight and to address as one family.
Bilya G. Tunkara, fourth Deputy Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament and head of the Gambia's delegation, is proud that the Gambia successfully hosted the meeting and thanked the Parliament for choosing the Gambia.
I want to sincerely appreciate the secretariats who are behind the scenes. You might not see their effort, but they are really the engineers, burning night candles to make sure that this thing is a success.
Earlier on, the Joint Committee held a dialogue meeting with young people on youth migration within the ECOWAS region. There are testimonies from a human trafficking survivor, 2 irregular migration returnees, and a mother who lost her son to irregular migration. Ami Job, a human trafficking survivor, testified that she was tricked and trafficked to Egypt, where she experienced the worst treatment of her life. She is now leading a campaign to raise awareness on combating trafficking.
I was locked in the room for 2 weeks. My phones were taken away from me. I couldn't get the access to communicate with my parents. So, believe it or not, human trafficking exists. And we have young girls that cannot talk, or they feel shy to come out in the society and share their stories.
It is now hoped that the committee will translate these recommendations into actions for the betterment of the sub-region and its people. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
And a report there by Aliou Cisse will lead us to the commercial break, but we will be right back.
Hardware Technology Gambia Limited, one of the leading ICT training institutions in the Gambia. Enjoy a 30% discount on all programs' tuition fees if you enroll before the 10th of September 2024. Our program will start in September 2024. Our offered courses: Diploma in Introduction to Information Technology, Diploma in Database Admin, Advanced Diploma in Software Development, Diploma in Technical Support, Diploma in Multimedia, Diploma in Cybersecurity. We also offer Cisco Certified Network Administration (CCNA), Cisco Certified Network Professional (CCNP) courses. Enroll today. Call us at 7001-968. Visit our website www.iihtgambia.gm. Connecting talent to opportunity.
Welcome to the future of transportation in the Gambia. The Bertel Harding Highway, a 22-kilometer double carriageway, is set to revolutionize travel and connectivity in our beloved country. The Bertel Harding Highway is transforming transportation in the Gambia with new roundabouts and vehicular overpasses. But safety must come first. Standing along the road or at roundabouts to flag down taxis creates unsafe conditions and unnecessary traffic jams. Remember, always board taxis at designated taxi garages or the garas, located at major traffic points. Drivers stopping in no stopping zones will be penalized. Let's keep our roads clear and safe. Together, we can ensure a safe and efficient journey for all.
Well, thanks for staying with us. Now, the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology recently concluded a day-long stakeholders engagement on the implementation process of the Skills, Innovation and Entrepreneurship SIE Fund at their conference center in Bijilo. Usman Jata tells us more.
The Skills Fund, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Fund, which was launched by President Barrow in May 2024, is set up by the government and partners to enhance access to technical, innovation and entrepreneurial skills for Gambian youth, while improving the relevance and quality of TVET in the country. This stakeholder convergence is to get an update on the SIE Fund and to provide the technical vocational education centers with details on how to apply to access the fund. Professor Momodu Salah is the operational manager at the Central Projects Coordination Unit of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs.
We're setting up this innovative skills innovation kind of like fund, which is really, really good, which I hope is going to be a game changer. Because if you look at education that is not functional, that is not relevant, that is not responsive to the needs of the people, then it is not good education. So if we got a lot of problems in society and our education system is not able to adequately respond to the needs of the people, the needs of the young people, the unemployed, industry needs, about hopelessness, about anything to do with development, if we have got basic things that can be manufactured here, but they're not being manufactured here, hopefully the skill funds allows this pivot component to develop the entrepreneurship, the innovation, the funding that is required to develop an entrepreneurial ecosystem within the TVET sector.
The initiative is a $92.7 million funded project under the World Bank funded Resilience, Institution, Skills and Equity project. The project is anchored on 3 windows which aims to enhance TVET capacity by strengthening TVET institutions and training, promoting relevant skills development and supporting entrepreneurship for successful businesses. Dr. Yusufa Toure is the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology.
As a ministry, we have a plan. When we talked about this transformation, we discussed among ourselves and said, certain parameters are missing, and we need to create those parameters, for you and for the youth, so that tomorrow they would come out with the needed skills and then fit in the society.
Irregular migration among Gambian youth is a significant issue driven primarily by economic challenges. Dr. Toure urges fellow stakeholders to devise plans that will support youth development in the country and says the government cannot do it alone.
So it is our responsibility as a collective. It does not mean government has to do all these things. You, the most important players, must look into your programs and address some of those issues that would give them the right skills, that would keep them even in the West if they succeed in going across the Mediterranean.
A manual has been developed to guide the implementation of the SIE Fund project's 3 components to ensure that the fund is inclusive and sustainable for youth development. When fully implemented, the project hopes to create more employment opportunities for young people. Usman Jata, reporting for QTV News.
And from the report there by Usman Jata, we now take a look at international news in a moment. Now, African journalists participating in a 4-month media fellowship program organized by the China International Press Communication Center have applauded China's booming tourism industry and say many African countries should emulate China's strategies to boost tourism. QTV's Jennifer Sonko is with them and she filed this report from Beijing.
Tourism is a significant economic sector for many African countries, including the Gambia. The tourist attraction to Africa is driven by the continent's rich cultural heritage, landscapes, climate, animals, and generally the uniqueness of experiencing traveling in Africa. Despite all these advantages to Africa's tourism sector, there exist significant barriers in many African countries. Poor roads, insufficient public transportation, and limited access to reliable utilities make travel challenging for both domestic and international tourists. At fourth in the continent and having attracted 8.5 million tourists in 2023, South Africa ranks among the most popular African countries for tourists. Travel and tourism contributes 8.6% of the South African economy and provides for 9.2% of total employment within the country. Here is South African journalist Ayanda Nzuli's take on lessons South Africa should learn from China.
The lessons that I can say that we can learn from China, particularly in Beijing, number one is the cleanliness around the city of Beijing, and number two is the fact that there's no crime. In Beijing. I think the Chinese take the issues around crime and cleanliness very, very seriously. We've had situations in our major cities such as Johannesburg and in eThekwini in Durban where a lot of our infrastructure has been dilapidated and also it needs to be cleaned up, where we have a lot of homelessness, a lot of vagabonds, on the streets. It's not all like that. It's a small section of it.
Nigeria does not feature in the top 15 countries in Africa, despite having great natural landmarks, wildlife reserves, and cultural events that should attract tourists from across the world. Nigerian journalist Raphael Oni identifies mismanagement as a major setback in Nigeria's tourism sector.
See in China about tourism that they put the country first, nationalism. They are not particular about the individual. So, but back home in Africa, generally in Nigeria, which we don't put the national interest first. Anytime you come for a program in China, you must definitely, one way or the other, visit the Great Wall, which is a source of revenue for the national body. So we have a lot of tourist sites that can be developed, but we need a system, a functional system. We need people who will be deliberate about it. It's not just having Ministry of Tourism, a Federal Ministry of Tourism, but let's have people who actually identify those tourist sites that can attract a lot of people. We have Gurara Waterfall, we have a Ikosi water, we have Yankari Game Reserve, Tinapa in Calabar. We have everything, but yet we are getting little out of it because we don't have a system that actually promotes the tourism.
China is ranked second in the world for travel and tourism's contribution to GDP in 2022. Tourism sites such as the Great Wall of China, the Forbidden City, the Summer Palace, and the Terracotta Army sculptures and the Temple of Heaven in Beijing are among major places of interest, attracting tourists from around the world. Reporting for QTV News from Beijing, I am Jenna Bosonko.
Well, time now for sports news. Now, just days before they begin the vital 2025 Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations qualifying campaign, the Malian Football Federation, FEMAFOOT, announced the appointment of Belgian coach Tom Sanfeet as head coach of the national side. Umudu Gajagat tells us more.
The announcement on Wednesday evening brings an end to weeks of speculation and emphasizes the Federation's effort to stabilize matters ahead of the qualifiers. Mali's football governing body, FEMAFOOT, announced Sanfeet's appointment on its social media accounts, ending a selection process that reportedly included 6 candidates. The Belgian beat some of the most high-profile contenders, such as the Portuguese Antonio Conceição, the Argentinian Hector Cooper, and Pitso Motumane, the South African. Sanfeet's contract, which is 2 years long, with a chance of extension, comes with higher expectation than his 2 most recent jobs with the Philippines national team, which he only took in February, shortly after leaving the Gambia. Leaving the Philippines job meant activating a clause that allows him to return to African football. Femafoot has set lofty goals for the new head coach, including reaching the semi-finals of AFCON 2025 in Morocco and clinching Mali's qualification to the 2026 World Cup, something the nation has never achieved. Sanfied inherits a team of talented players, many of whom play in some of the world's top leagues. With qualifiers against Mozambique on the 6th of September in Bamako and Eswatini on the 9th of September in Bombele, South Africa approaching, his employers will expect the new coach to have an immediate impact. Sanfied, 51, brings a lot of African football experience to the post, having previously led Namibia, Zambia, Ethiopia, Malawi, Togo, and most notably the Gambia. During his time with the Scorpions, he orchestrated a historic AFCON qualification in 2021, which was followed by an incredible quarter-final performance. For the man who once described himself as the smiling coach of the Gambia, his ability to handle the complexities of picking the finest players from Mali's talent pool may be his most beneficial attribute in his new role. Mamadou Gajega, QTV News.
And I'm afraid this is where we draw the curtains on this bulletin. But before we take a leave of you, here's a recap from main headlines. The outgoing Senegalese High Commissioner to the Gambia, His Excellency Bassirou Sen, and members of the National Bakers Union met President Barrow at the State House on Friday. The United Nations Gambia office met with stakeholders today to discuss the final position paper of the recently concluded National Youth Consultation on the Summit of the Future. The joint meeting of the EAS Parliament ended on Thursday with a recommendation that, among other things, the issuance of residence permits should be abolished in the region in keeping with the Community of Protocols. In international news, African journalists participating in a 4-month media fellowship program in China have applauded China's booming tourism industry and that many African countries should emulate China's strategies to boost tourism. And in sports news, the Malian Football Federation, Femafoot, have announced the appointment of former Gambia Scorpions coach Tom Sanfied as head coach of the national side. That's it for this bulletin. Do join us tomorrow, same time, for more news. Until then, on behalf of the entire production team, thanks for watching.